Unveiled, 5 spine-chilling true stories this summer that left us haunted and terrified. Lisa's heart raced as she stepped off the city bus. The night's darkness swallowed her, and the shadows danced wildly under the flickering streetlights. Whispered fears of vanishing families haunted the air in her quiet Des Moines suburb. Everyone spoke in hushed tones, sharing unnerving details of neighbors lost without a trace. With every step towards home, the sensation of being watched wrapped around her like a vice. Would she be next? A rustle made her spin around. Nothing. Just the wind teasing at the branches. But the chill clawed at her skin, pushing her to quicken her pace. With 2 kids waiting for her, a 5-year-old boy named Tommy and his brave sister Clara, she forced herself to dismiss the dread, focusing instead on the warmth of their laughter that awaited her inside. Yet, a gnawing pit in her stomach escalated with each night she returned home from the hospital. As days blurred into nights, Lisa began experiencing peculiar happenings. The lights flickered like a dying heartbeat, and whispers seemed to seep through the walls, faint yet persistent. Every creak in the floorboards made her jump. Surely, it was just exhaustion, right? She was a single mother working night shifts, of course she was tired. But a sinister feeling lingered, gnawing away at her resolve. Mr. Elliot, the neighbor from next door, always so agreeable and helpful, stirred doubt in her mind. His kind smile held secrets. Were those whispers about him true? Did he know something about the disappearances? Feeling paranoid, she noticed shadows lingering outside her children's bedroom window. Shadows that sent her heart into a frenzied state of panic. She called the police, her voice trembling as she shared her fears. They dismissed her concerns as an overactive imagination. Did they not understand the stakes? Stranded in her isolation, Lisa grappled with the feeling that the people meant to protect her were just as lost as she was. Days turned into a vicious cycle of sleepless nights. As she lay awake, her heart thundered in the quiet, hyper-aware of every sound. Was it just an old house settling, or was something lurking, even now, yearning to invade her sanctuary? She wanted to reassure her kids, to be the strong pillar they'd always known her to be. But the growing sense of dread loomed too large. With her mind racing, she recalled that familiar face next door. How many times had she trusted him? And yet, he seemed embroiled in the fabric of community whispers about the missing residents. Just as she thought her fears were perhaps unfounded, a loud bang shattered the silence. Her pulse quickened. What was that? It came from the front door. Lisa held her breath, her eyes darting towards the source of the noise. There it was again, a heavy knock, chilling and relentless. No. She sensed whatever lay on the other side might not be benign. It was something seeking entry, an unspeakable force daring to disrupt the fragile peace she clung to. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the knock echoed again, a deep, purposeful thud, Lisa felt her blood run cold. Her instincts screamed at her to protect her children, to shield them from whatever horror awaited her at the door. She dashed towards the living room, peering through the peephole, only to find darkness staring back. Heart pounding, mind racing, nerves taut, what needed to be done? Was she ready to confront the sinister unknown, or would those shadows consume her whole? The banging stopped. A heavy silence filled the air, pressing down on Lisa like a weight. She hesitated, panic wrestling with her instincts. Had whoever it was recognized her fear? Or were they simply biding their time, waiting for her to falter? Gritting her teeth, Lisa backed away from the door, returning to the living room where the faint sounds of her children's restless slumber eased her frayed nerves. She had to stay calm. There was nothing she could do until daylight. She glanced at the clock on the wall. It was nearly midnight. A calm night for the world outside, but in her home, an undercurrent of turmoil ran wild. Suddenly, the shrill wail of a siren pierced the night. Lisa's heart twisted. She dashed to the window, peering out through the blinds, hoping to see flashing lights that might bring a sense of relief. But all she saw was the blackness of the street, the silhouettes of the trees standing like sentinels guarding secrets she longed to uncover. Her gaze caught a glimpse of Mr. Elliott's house, dark and still, but something moved in the shadows, darting quickly out of view. A figure? Her heart raced. It had to be just her paranoia playing tricks, yet the whispering doubts crept back in. Could he be involved in the disappearances? The thought sent a chill spiraling down her spine. Then, with no warning, a soft tap echoed from behind her. Lisa spun around, her breath hitching as she clutched her chest. It was Tommy, rubbing his eyes. His small frame was silhouetted in the dim light, innocent yet vulnerable. "Mommy?" He mumbled sleepily, his voice barely above a whisper. "What's wrong?" Pulling her son close, she felt the warmth that radiated from him act as a balm for her fraying nerves. "Nothing, honey," she whispered back, forcing a smile. "Everything's okay. Just a loud noise." Clara stirred in the other room, her tiny voice questioning the sounds of the night. "Mom?" The innocent inquiries began to unravel her tenuous grip on composure. "Just stay in your room," Lisa urged, forcing upon her a false positivity. "Everything's fine. Go back to sleep." But her voice cracked, stoking the coals of anxiety simmering in her chest. As she tucked Tommy back into bed, her mind raced ahead. Somewhere outside, something malevolent lingered, watching, waiting. Her thoughts spiraled into images of the families gone missing. What had they experienced? Terror? Despair? Lisa, heart pounding, glanced toward the door, aware that every noise now felt like a crescendo of doom. Moments passed, shadows flickered, her own thoughts felt heavy as stone. Just as she closed her eyes, an earth-shattering crash erupted from the kitchen. Lisa gasped, instinctually grabbing Tommy and bolting towards the source of the noise. Adrenaline surged through her body as fear wrapped around her. What had happened? Was someone or something inside? The kitchen lay shrouded in darkness, but shards of glass glittered on the floor, reflecting the specks of moonlight seeping through the window. Lisa swallowed hard, feeling the primal urge to flee. But her children? She turned to Tommy, eyes wide and teary, and she reassured him with a whisper, "Stay close to me." Together they crept toward the kitchen, inching forward through the darkness with every flicker of the bulb above them. As she scanned the room, she caught a movement in the corner of her eye, a shadow materializing out of the darkness. Adrenaline ignited, the cold dread pooling in her stomach. She squinted, breath hitching in her throat. What horror awaited? And then she heard it, a laugh. Low and menacing. Not her children's. What had she unleashed? The question echoed in the air, leaving her breathless. A tense silence lingered in the kitchen, only broken by the soft, shaky breaths of Lisa and Tommy. The laughter, sinister and chilling, still echoed in her mind, weaving through her thoughts like a dark thread. Was it real? Or just the product of her frayed nerves? "Mommy, I'm scared," Tommy whispered, his small hand clutching her shirt tightly. Lisa felt her heart twist painfully, wishing she could shield him from the horrors lurking in the night. "I want to go back to bed." In that moment, the yearning for safety crashed over her like a wave. "Okay, darling," she whispered, though dread bubbled in her stomach. But there was no turning back now. They had to confront whatever demon lurked in the shadows. Holding Tommy's hand, she took a shaky step forward into the kitchen. Each crunch of glass underfoot sent new shivers up her spine. The eerie laughter faded, replaced by the rhythmic echo of her pulse. She moved toward the darkness, half expecting a shape to leap out at them, half hoping to find something innocent, perhaps just a mug that had fallen to the floor. The dim light flickered as she turned, revealing more of the chaos. The countertop was a twisted mess of broken plates and splintered wood from the cupboard. Still, nothing sinister stood before her. But the feeling of being watched prickled her skin, an unsettling reminder that danger could lay just beneath the surface, hidden from view. "Mom?" Tommy's voice trembled, drawing her back from the edge of her spiraling thoughts. "I hear something." She froze, straining to listen over her own thundering heart. A soft, rhythmic tapping echoed through the room, like fingers drumming against wood. The sound seemed to come from the back of the kitchen, beyond an old, heavy door that led to the basement. Fear tightened her throat. "Stay here," she commanded, but her voice wavered. Tommy's eyes widened. She could see the terror reflected in them. "No, Mommy. Don't go," he pleaded, pulling harder against her shirt. "I'm just checking," she began, but the words dwindled as dread clawed at her heart. She didn't even believe her own reassurances. Gritting her teeth, Lisa forced her feet forward, inching towards the door. Her hand shook as she reached for the cold metal knob. With each turn, the tapping grew louder, more insistent. It felt as if whatever was behind that door was waiting. Anticipating. When the knob turned, she yanked the door open, revealing stairs that descended into pitch blackness. The atmosphere pressed in on her, heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. A cool draft rushed up like a warning, sending her instincts into overdrive. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from downstairs. It was followed by something, or someone, moving quick, sharp, urgent. The laughter returned, rising like a phantom from the depths. Chills cascaded down her spine. "Mommy!" Tommy screamed, his little voice cracking in terror. She spun around, her heart racing as she grabbed his hand tightly, tugging him close. "We have to go, Tommy. Now!" But before they could turn to flee, a figure emerged from the shadows at the edge of the stairs, a face, pale and hollow, eyes like dark voids. Fear paralyzed Lisa. "What have you unleashed?" It whispered, voice a haunting echo that slithered through the air. The words settled around her like a shroud, stealing away any remaining courage. Lisa felt the world tilt, her instincts screaming for her to run. But there was no escape. As the figure stepped into the weak moonlight, a truth began to surface, one that would shake her to her very core. And just like that, the laughter morphed into a sinister chant, filling the air with an ancient threat. What would happen if they didn't act? The question hung in the air, the final tremors of night closing in. Lisa's breath came in short gasps, her mind racing between survival and the paralyzing dread that gripped her heart. The figure stood before them, frozen like a statue born from nightmares. Its hollow eyes seemed to draw her in, while the scratching chant grew louder, wrapping around her like a serpentine coil. "Mommy, please!" Tommy cried, the innocence of his plea slicing through the terror. She felt a surge of protective instinct. This being had emerged because of her decisions, her reckless disregard for the strange occurrences they had experienced since moving into this house. What had felt like a quirky blessing now turned into a curse. "Stay behind me," she whispered, her voice trembling. She edged backwards, willing her legs to carry her toward the door. The figure tilted its head, as if studying her, evaluating her resolve as the chant continued to surge in intensity. "Leave this place." Lisa forced the words out, although every ounce of her being felt crushed under the weight of the presence before her. The figure didn't flinch. Instead, it took a slow step forward. The air grew colder. Lisa's palms turned clammy, her heart hammering like a desperate drum. "Mommy," Tommy's voice was smaller now, echoing the vulnerability that wrapped around them. "I want to go home. The word felt foreign here, tainted with shaky resolve. Lisa yanked Tommy closer and turned to bolt back down the hallway, but the figure moved faster. It blurred from one spot to another, an unnatural shift that left dread pooling around her feet. They were trapped, the cycle of panic gripping her heart like a vice. "Find what you seek," it rasped, stretching its fingers toward them. But what was there to find? Hidden powers? Sinister secrets? "Run, Tommy! Run!" She screamed, pulling him forward as she flung herself towards the door leading outside. She could hear the laughter, louder, mocking her as they stumbled away from that dark presence. Bursting through the door, they hit the cool air of the night. The world outside felt surreal, too quiet, too still. The laughter faded slightly, but the chill hung in the air like a fog, sinking deeply into her bones. Lisa felt as if they had only shifted from one prison to another. "Look, Mommy!" Tommy cried, pointing toward the woods that loomed nearby. Moonlight glinted through the trees, each shadow a potential threat. She hesitated. Let South stay close to the house. But Tommy had already taken a step forward, his curiosity piqued, lured by the darkness. "Tommy!" "No!" Lisa reached for him, panic slicing through her calm facade as they moved deeper into the shadows. Nothing about that place was safe anymore. She had to drag him back before whatever lurked in the woods embraced him. Suddenly, the air shifted, charged with an unspoken warning. Muffled voices echoed from the trees, drawing nearer with every heartbeat. Their content was indecipherable whispers laced with malice and promise. Just before she could grab Tommy's hand, a flash of movement surged nearby. A figure darted just out of view, quick and erratic, sending her senses into overdrive. "Tommy!" she shouted. "We have to get inside now." But as fear turned to frenzy, she felt a shift in the very ground beneath them. The house creaked ominously, as if it were alive and aware of their actions. Tommy's plea trailed off, eyes wide with a terror she couldn't fully comprehend. "Stay with me," she urged, adrenaline surging through her. But with a sudden snap, the door behind them banged shut, sealing their desperation behind a barrier of darkness. A new whisper filled the air, more insistent now. "What waits for you in the dark?" The question hung ominously between them, a clarity mingling with an unshakable dread. Each second stretched like a taut thread, every tick of time weighed down with an impending sense of doom. What awaited them in that penetrating dark? As they stood, trembling under the weight of unknown horrors, the woods behind them rustled menacingly. Whatever chased them was not far behind. How would they escape this cycle of terror? The woods loomed around them like an endless gaping mouth, ready to swallow them whole. Lisa grabbed Tommy's hand tighter, her nails digging into the soft flesh of his palm. A sharp cry stuck in her throat as she could feel the weight of the darkness pressing in, thick and oppressive, like a heavy blanket made of fear. "Mommy!" Tommy whimpered, his voice trembling. He looked up at her, begging for assurance that everything would be okay. She wanted to give him that reassurance, she wanted to believe the words, but the shadows behind them whispered too loudly, clawing at her confidence. "Stay close. Do you hear me?" She forced the command through clenched teeth, trying to maintain control, but doubt gnawed at her resolve. As they turned to head back toward the house, the branches of the trees seemed to curl and snake around them, almost like tendrils seeking to pull them deeper into the darkness. Her heart pounded as she focused on the doorway, the only shred of safety in a landscape turned hostile. Behind them, the rustling escalated, saturating the air with a sense of urgency. The laughter they had heard earlier returned, more sinister now, echoing in the distance. Lisa's instincts screamed at her, they were being hunted. "Run!" she shouted, pulling Tommy along as they sprinted toward the house. The wind howled, sending cold fingers up her spine. She could almost hear the whispers take on a more familiar tone, teasing her, chanting her failures. "Leave, leave, leave!" it echoed in her mind, intertwining with Tommy's heavy breaths. "Mommy!" Tommy screamed, stumbling over a root. "I can't get up!" Lisa shouted, forcing every ounce of desperation into her voice. She yanked him up, feeling tears prick her eyes at the timbre of his fear. They were almost to the door when darkness surged from the woods, swirling like a living entity, latching onto her legs like a vice. With sheer will, she clasped Tommy's hand tighter, practically dragging him forward. Fear thickened the air, but she fought against it, driving towards the house with everything she had. As they neared the entrance, the door cracked open, an invitation or a trap, she couldn't tell. "Go!" With one final push, they stumbled through, crashing into the cool, musty hallway, but their brief respite was abruptly shattered by the door slamming shut behind them. The house groaned, vibrating around them, its integrity failing. Fractured laughter broke through the seams of reality, reshaping the walls. "No, no, no," Lisa murmured, back pressed against the door. The darkness was thickening, swirling into the very corners of the room as if it were alive. She felt the air grow colder, sucked from her lungs, every shadow reaching out toward them. "Mommy, I'm scared." Tommy's voice cracked, feeling smaller and smaller with every second. Lisa glanced around, searching for refuge, but the familiar shapes of the rooms twisted in her mind, distorting into something unrecognizable. She locked eyes with Tommy, who reflected her horror back at her. "Stay with me," she whispered fiercely, fighting against the overwhelming sense of doom. Suddenly, the air shifted with the weight of something unseen, a slow, deliberate presence breathing in their space. "Find what you seek," it echoed once more, the figures rasped, morphing, growing more tangible even in the safety of their own home. A sudden crash from the kitchen jarred her. Lisa whipped her head towards the sound, her heart racing. That wasn't a part of the house. The things she had felt earlier were no longer whispers, they were commands beckoning her to obey. "Tommy, we need to move," she hissed, pulling him toward the kitchen. The path through the house shifted, shadows expanding and contracting, blocking their way. What was waiting for them now? As they entered the kitchen, choking martial fog enveloped the area. The cooking utensils now seemed positioned as if preparing for a dark feast, and the room itself dimmed, where the light couldn't penetrate. Each heartbeat echoed in their ears like impending doom. "Mommy." Tommy's voice trembled, a plea mixed with confusion. "Shoo," she said, pressing her finger to her lips. The air was electric with anticipation. She could feel it. The darkness was on the verge of revealing its true form. And then there was silence. An unbearable silence, pregnant with something lurking just beyond. "Tommy," she whispered, drawing him into the corner, but as she turned, the door behind them creaked slowly open again, whispering promises of hope mingled with dread. What awaited them on the other side? Would it be salvation or something far worse? As Lisa stood frozen, a chill raced down her spine. The door creaked open wider, its dark maw revealing only an empty void. The shadows seemed to pulse, dragging along the ground like a lingering nightmare. "Mommy, I don't want to go." Tommy's voice was a fragile whisper, a plea more than a statement. Lisa felt her heart twist. She knew they couldn't stay here, but the doorway looked more inviting than the fog-wrapped kitchen. "Just stay behind me, okay?" she said, fighting the tremor in her voice. With a trembling step forward, she inched toward the yawning dark. Each creak of the floorboards beneath her felt like a warning. The faint laughter from outside stopped abruptly, plunging the house into a silence that thrummed with expectancy. Shadows flickered in the corners of her vision, darting away whenever she tried to catch sight of them. It was as if the darkness was alive, observing them, calculating. "Maybe it's safe now," she reassured herself more than Tommy. "We can just check, just a little peek." As she stepped through the threshold, the room around them shifted. The air grew dense, similar to the unsettling silence of a graveyard. It swallowed her words before they could fully form. A low growl emanated from deep within the darkened room, vibrating in her chest. "Back! Back!" she snapped, yanking Tommy with her, but he was already pulled into a paralyzing trance. "No! Not now!" The door slammed shut behind them with a force that rattled the very foundations of the house. The darkness around them thickened, a living thing curling and stretching like hungry tendrils, searching for them, wanting them. Lisa's pulse raced as she grasped her son tightly, their breaths mingling in the suffocating air. "Tommy, we need to find a way out of here," she urged, her voice tight with panic. But deep inside, a voice whispered doubts, reminding her that every path they had taken seemed to lead them further into this nightmare. Suddenly, a soft giggle broke the stillness. The sound was pure malice, echoing off the cracked walls, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. "Do you hear that?" Lisa asked, her heart hammering against her ribcage. Tommy nodded slowly, the fear in his wide eyes reflecting her own. "What is it?" I don't know." She turned towards the source of the noise, but the shadows danced obediently, refusing to reveal their secrets. The fog seemed to churn, revealing faint outlines of what could only be described as figures, shifting in and out of focus. Before she had time to process, the figures lunged forward. Lisa grabbed Tommy and twisted to the side. The mass of darkness swirled in front of her, a shifting wall of despair. She could sense the presence erupting from the shadows, a monstrous visage with an ever-hungry grin that seemed to reach towards them. "Run!" she screamed, her instincts taking over. Tommy fell back, scrambling away from the darkness, and she pulled him along, dodging the arms that reached for them. They burst into the living room, hearts racing, adrenaline flooding their systems. But the room was just as twisted as the kitchen, the furniture warped and stitching together a reality that felt unreal. In place of the comforting hearth, a gaping hole yawned, revealing only a churning blackness below. "Mommy, where do we go?" Tommy's voice was almost lost in the chaos. "We can't stay here." She shoved past a rotund chair that seemed to throb with life, feeling the raw energy pulsate beneath her fingertips. "The basement. We'll try there." She flung open a door leading down into the dark stairs, drawn by a desperate hope. The darkness engulfed them, and Lisa felt that familiar weight on their shoulders, heavy and merciless. But what awaited at the bottom? A sudden thud echoed behind them, something heavy and relentless. "Go, go, go!" she urged, dragging Tommy down the creaking steps, their echoes swallowed by the oppressive darkness. What awaited them below? Would there be an escape or a final revelation of their doom? The stairs spiraled down into darkness, each step echoing their dread like a war drum signaling an approaching army. A thin beam of light trickled from her phone, illuminating the damp walls that dripped with moisture, but no warmth came from it. It was as if the walls themselves were breathing, exhaling cold and despair as they descended deeper. "Mommy, please," Tommy whimpered, his small hand trembling in hers. "Just a little further, okay?" she replied, forcing an encouraging tone that cracked at the edges. The air thickened around them, tugging at Lisa's skin, wrapping her in a heavy, suffocating cloth. Her instincts screamed for her to abandon this path, yet the pressing weight of that thud behind them drove her onward. They had no choice, there was no going back. The deeper they went, the more distorted the world seemed. Visions flickered in the shadows, twisted memories that felt like echoes of a long-lost life. Lisa's heart raced. How far could this descent go? "Mommy." Tommy's voice pierced through the thickening fog of despair. "What's that?" She turned sharply, her light flickering as an unknown form danced in the corners of her vision. It looked like a child, a girl, just Tommy's age. She stood at the bottom of the stairs, pale and fragile, her eyes wide and glassy in the dim light. "Help me," the girl whispered, but the words were wrapped in a honeyed voice that sent chills dancing along Lisa's spine. "Did you hear that?" "Stay close to me," Lisa murmured, instinctively shielding Tommy behind her. The figure looked harmless, yet everything in Lisa screamed that they should keep moving. The echo of her desire to protect her son warred against her instinct to help, but as they neared the bottom, the illusion crumbled. The girl's form blurred, rippling like a reflection on water. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed suddenly, contorting into a snarl, revealing fangs that glimmered in the dark. "Run!" Lisa shouted, feeling a primal surge of fear as the girl's form collapsed into shadows, merging with the darkness that loomed like an impending storm. Tommy's scream shot into the air, raw and unrestrained, fueling Lisa's determination. "Grab my hand." She snatched a hold of Tommy's arm, and they raced into the gloomy unknown at the basement's foot. The sudden chill deepened as they stumbled into a massive, dimly lit space. The smell of rot and decay hung heavy, nauseating, almost sentient. "Mommy, what is this place?" Tommy's whimper broke through the oppressive stillness. Lisa dropped her phone, the faint light exposing rows of faces plastered against the walls, their mouths gaping in silent screams. Living nightmares drawn in eerie hues stared right back at her, their eyes gleaming with a dismal light, seeming to breathe despair into the very room. "Tommy! Keep your eyes on my back." Panic twisted Lisa's stomach into knots. The room vibrated with distant whispers, incoherent yet filled with sorrow. The walls pulsated, closing the space around them. As she scanned for an exit, the shadows lurched towards them, stretching and clawing as if to reclaim what escaped their grasp. The laughter echoed again, those same malicious giggles that taunted her before, now mingling with the cries of tormented souls. "Mommy!" Tommy whimpered, and she felt him tremble against her. "You have to hold on tight," she said, forcing her voice to steady herself and him. Just as they turned to run deeper into the room, a blinding light flickered in the corner of her vision. She hesitated, caught between terror and a desperate hope. What was that? She thought, feeling its pull like a beacon in the darkness. But as the shadows swirled closer, she realized, in this place, light might be more dangerous than darkness. What was waiting for them ahead? Could anything come from that light, or would it reveal an even harsher reality lurking in the abyss? Lisa's breath caught in her throat as that blinding light fought against the heavy darkness. It pulsed, drawing in shadows and pushing them back, creating a warped bubble where time seemed to freeze. Tommy clutched her tighter, eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. "Mommy, can we go see?" he whispered, his voice barely breaking the silence that shrouded them. "No." The word burst from her lips with a frantic urgency. "We can't take the risk." Yet her feet hesitated, reluctant to abandon whatever glimmer of hope that light might represent. Dread curled in her stomach like a coiled snake, ready to strike against her better judgment. Suddenly, the laughter from the shadows reached a crescendo, swelling into a cacophony of despair. The faces on the walls twisted and writhed, their silent screams morphing into a grotesque symphony that echoed through the crushing gloom. Lisa could almost feel their desperation seep into her bones. "Mommy!" Tommy screamed. "Run!" And he pulled at her, yanking her back from the edge of that dreadful light. She stumbled, her instincts overriding her hesitation, and they sprinted deeper into the room, a wild dash into the unknown, yet the shadows seemed to swell and stretch, dizzying and deceptive, as if they had become one with the walls themselves. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest, the rhythm violent and erratic, urging her to escape this nightmare. Tommy's small legs raced behind her, breaths coming in quick gasps. Just as she felt the tendrils of darkness brushing against her sides, Lisa spotted something, an archway carved into the grim stone, leading into another chamber beyond. The light throbbed through the entry, illuminating an undeniable path. Gripping Tommy's hand tighter, she dashed toward it, her pulse echoing in her ears like a war drum, but as they approached, a cold wind rushed past them, carrying whispers that chilled her to the core. "Join us, forever. Don't listen. Run!" she yelled, pulling Tommy towards the archway. They slipped through just as the shadows lunged to grasp at them, clawing at her sweater, at Tommy's wrist. Inside, the atmosphere shifted. The walls were warm and lined with a golden hue, a stark contrast to the pervasive darkness they fled. It felt almost serene until they heard it. Tommy's voice curled around them, silky and soft, yet full of dread. "Mommy?" Tommy's face paled. "Is that you?" "No, no. Stay behind me." She whirled around to find their escape having closed off. The archway they'd come through was gone, replaced by an endless expanse of gold-tinted mist that moved and breathed like a living thing. What is this?" Tommy blurted, his wide eyes darting. "An illusion," Lisa whispered, desperately searching for any sign of a way out. "We have to keep moving." As they stepped further in, the room began to ripple around them, swaying like the surface of a choppy sea. Faces emerged within the fog, distressing echoes of those lost before them, their eyes pleading, their mouths twisted, words trapped inside. The scene twisted into a mosaic of horror and longing. Then, the mist coalesced, forming a figure, a woman with hollow eyes and a face lined with sadness. She moved closer, her lips parting, yet no sounds escaped them. Instead, an overwhelming sense of loss engulfed Lisa. It was a gut-wrenching ache that felt like drowning. "Tommy, back!" She snapped, but it was too late. The figure reached for him. "No!" Lisa lunged forward just as Tommy's hand brushed the specter's, freezing them both in place. The room shook with them, as if reality was about to tear apart. "Mommy. I feel sad," Tommy whispered, his small voice filled with an innocence that made Lisa's heart shatter. "Stay with me." Panic clawed at her throat. She wrenched her son back, the darkness around them surging wildly. Time slowed. The whispers crescendoed and swirled around them, both inviting and menacing. Lisa realized with horror that the golden mist thickened, hungry to absorb them, to trap them in the endless loop of despair. They had to find a way out. As the figure molded into shadow again, Lisa felt it whispering secrets, trying to pull them into its grasp. In that moment, she understood, they weren't merely running from danger anymore, they were caught in something far beyond just fear. What if every step they took only led them deeper into the trap? And what awaited them if they finally succumbed to the light? Lisa's heart raced as she dragged Tommy away from the figure. The mist thickened, curling around them like serpents intent on suffocating their escape. Panic coursed through her veins, the whispers grew louder, an anguished choir begging them to stay. "Mommy!" Tommy cried, tugging on her arm, his small body trembling. "Not now, Tommy. You have to trust me." Her voice faltered, the uncertainty gnawing at her resolve. She gazed back at the swirling mist, where the woman's hollow eyes turned glassy, her mouth stretching wide in a silent scream. For a moment, Lisa felt an overwhelming urge to turn back, to reach for that despairing specter. "Come to me," the voice echoed, curling around her mind. It felt like a call from the deepest depths of the ocean, an irresistible force luring her into the abyss. "No!" Lisa shook her head violently as if to dislodge the voice. "We can't. Keep moving." They stumbled forward, pushing through the clinging mist, feeling the coldness gnaw at their skin. The golden hue began to shift, the room warping around them, the walls pulsating like a beating heart. With each step, Lisa felt a step deeper into the nightmare, the reality of their situation becoming ever clearer. "What is this place?" Tommy whispered, his wide eyes glistening with tears. "I don't know," she replied, voice steadier than she felt. "But we have to find a way out. We can't give in. We have to fight." The fog swirled faster, forming grotesque faces that twisted with anguish, each one a reminder of those who had been lost. Lisa's breath hitched in her throat, the echoes of their despair ringing in her ears. She had to shield Tommy from this horror, to find a safety that eluded them both. "Mommy!" Tommy cried again, pointing as a chilling chill swept through the air. Sweeping shadows emerged, swirling around them with ferocity. "Run!" she shouted, grabbing his hand as they darted forward. They raced through the undulating mist, toward a faint light that flickered ahead. "Is that a way out?" Tommy asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I hope so." But the light felt deceptive. As they drew closer, it blinked like a dying candle, illuminating monstrous figures flickering at the edges of their vision. Lisa's heart pounded louder. They were being watched. The moment they reached the light, a piercing scream erupted from the darkness behind them, sharp as glass and filled with wrath, and the shadows surged. With an agonizing roar, they lunged towards Lisa and Tommy, fingers stretching menacingly. "Don't stop. Hold on to me." Lisa screamed, pulling Tommy close, her mind racing for a way, any way, to escape. The light shifted as they neared, its warmth threatening to pull them in, yet the shadows lurked at the edge, hungry and ready to snatch them away. Suddenly, the floor beneath them trembled and split, a massive crack edging dangerously between them and the beckoning light. Lisa felt her heart drop. There was nowhere to go. The shadows hissed, swirling closer, and in that heartbeat, she had to decide. Could they jump? Or would the darkness claim them before they could reach safety? "Mommy!" Tommy squeaked, his small voice barely audible over the chaos. "Trust me, hold tight," she yelled. Without another moment's hesitation, she took a deep breath and leaped into the swirling light, gripping Tommy fiercely. The crack widened, shadows grasping, howling as they fell into the unknown. As they plunged through the golden mist, the ground vanished beneath them. Darkness enveloped them, the light flashing once behind. Just when Lisa thought they might pull through, echoes of laughter filled the void, a haunting, merciless reminder of the terror that chased them, and then, silence but darkness was done with them. Yet, something shifted in the air, the shadows settling like a blanket. As they landed hard, a sense of dread washed over Lisa like a wave. The world around them slowly crystallized into focus, an unfamiliar and sinister realm. "Where are we?" Tommy's voice trembled, echoing his mother's own growing concern. Lisa rose, heart racing against the unknown stretched before her. Strange shapes distorted the surroundings, shadows morphing into something almost human, yet twisted. "Stay close, Tommy, we need to figure this out." But deep down, a chilling thought crept into her mind. Had they truly escaped? Or was this the trap that awaited them all along? In the silence that followed, Lisa felt a dark presence closing in. They weren't alone anymore, and she realized everything they knew was about to change. Where would the darkness lead them next? The room pulsated with a heaviness that engulfed Lisa and Tommy, surrounding them like a fog of despair. Strange figures flickered at the edges of her vision, warped shapes that seemed to breathe malevolence. The air crackled with unspoken thoughts and frozen screams. "Keep moving, Tommy," Lisa urged, trying to inject strength into her voice. They had to escape this nightmare, but as they pushed forward, shadows shifted, closing in like a tight noose. "Can we go back?" Tommy whimpered, gripping her hand tightly. Fear slapped at her heart like icy fingers. "No, sweetheart. There's nothing back there," she replied, fighting against the cold clenching her throat. A shimmering path appeared, carved through the darkness, its light flickering like an uncertain heartbeat. "This way," she called, urging Tommy onward. They darted toward the glimmer, a desperate hope igniting a spark within her, but the shadows quivered angrily as they approached the light. A chilling wail echoed behind them, a sound that clawed at her insides. "Run! Now!" she shouted, their feet pounding on the uneven ground, each echo a desperate plea for survival. Tommy stumbled, and Lisa yanked him back to his feet, pushing him ahead as darkness swirled dangerously close. The figures loomed again, their whispers feeding into a void that screamed of age-old anguish. The chilling laughter returned, wrapping around them like a cold embrace filled with malice. It was as if the shadows were anticipating their every move, pulling them back into despair. "Mommy, what if they catch us?" Tommy's voice cracked, the fear palpable. She could feel tears prick at her eyes, but she swallowed hard. "They won't, trust me." With every ounce of determination, they leaped toward the flickering light, and just as they reached it, the ground began to tremble violently. Lisa threw her protective arms around Tommy, her heart racing with a primal instinct to shield him from whatever terror awaited. Then, with a roar, the ground split beneath them, swallowing the darkness and the shadowy figures whole. In the instant they landed, the world around them glittered, illuminating brighter than anything they had ever seen. To Lisa's surprise, they stood in a vast, open meadow filled with golden light. The air felt alive, crackling with an energy that warmed her skin. "What is this place?" Tommy whispered, or replacing fear in his eyes. "We did it." Her heart soared. "I think we might be safe." But even as hope flickered, something nagged at her mind, a shadow lingering at the edges of her awareness. The laughter receded into quiet whispers, but she couldn't shake the feeling they weren't entirely free. "We need to keep moving, just in case," she urged, taking Tommy's hand, leading him through the radiant expanse. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a village, bright and welcoming, but an unsettling sense of familiarity settled in Lisa's chest. As they entered, the villagers welcomed them with open arms. Their warmth felt genuine, yet something was off. A haunting familiarity lingered in the air, tugging at her memory. Is this really safe? Should we trust them? Tommy muttered, a knowing shiver creeping up his spine. Lisa felt the same hesitation, the echo of dread clawing at her gut. I don't know, she admitted. But maybe they can help us. A woman approached, eyes shining with a painful wisdom. Welcome, dear travelers, she said, her voice melodic yet laced with sorrow. You have come from the darkness. It is time to heal. But how? Tommy asked, glancing nervously at Lisa. The woman extended her hand, beckoning them to follow. Through acceptance, dear child. The shadows can only hold you if you let them. Lisa's heart twisted painfully. What does that mean? She asked, her voice timid. What do we need to accept? Your fears. Your past. The pain you carry, the woman replied, her gaze piercing deep within Lisa's soul. Only then can you find true peace. As the villagers gathered around, their whispers filled the air, each voice rhythmic and soft like a lullaby weaving through the light. Join us, they chanted in unison, urging Lisa and Tommy into the circle. Fear gripped Lisa, shocking her body into stillness. Tommy, we don't need to stay. We can keep running. She whispered fiercely. But Tommy brave, innocent Tommy was already stepping forward, his hand slipping from hers. Mommy Tommy. No. Panic surged, every protective instinct awakened within her. But just as she reached for him, the chanting grew louder, enveloping her in a cocoon of sound. Join us. Accept us. Lisa felt her core tremble, the shadows of her past looming above, whispering enticing promises of safety. Let go, they hissed, wrapping around her like poison ivy. With a fierce cry, she grabbed Tommy's arm, pulling him back toward her. No. We won tea. She howled. And just like that, a light erupted from her heart, pulsing outward, dispelling the shadows clinging to her. The villagers recoiled, painful expressions twisting their faces as the darkness they cultivated lost its grip on her. Are you ready? Lisa asked her son, determination set in her bones. This is the moment. We choose to move forward. Tommy nodded, fire igniting in his small chest as he clenched her hand tighter. Together, they broke free from the circle, bursting through the golden light, propelled by hope and love. The shadows wailed and shrieked behind them, losing their power as they stepped into the brightness. Feeling the weight of the darkness finally lift, Lisa closed her eyes, breathing in the warm air. They had triumphed. We're safe now, she whispered softly, pulling Tommy close. I knew we could do it, Mommy. He chirped, his laughter echoing the joy that bubbled in her chest. As they walked away from the shadows forever, Lisa looked back once, her heart filled with compassion for the struggles left behind. They had faced the abyss, clawed their way through, and in the end, their bond had triumphed. To the emptiness that had haunted her, she served one final defiance: you will never control me again. With that, they stepped into their newfound freedom, finally ascending toward the radiant possibilities of tomorrow. And though the echoes of the past lingered like soft whispers in the air, Lisa felt an unyielding strength grow within her, the strength to face anything that came their way. As dawn broke in a wash of brilliant color, they found their way back to the warmth of true home, leaving the horrors of the night behind, forever. But the victory wasn't only theirs. Every choice mattered. Every moment held weight. And for anyone still trapped in darkness, the path forward was out there, waiting to be seized. So now, dear friends, you need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next storytelling adventure. This is the moment to show your support and smash the like button now to keep the algorithm fueled. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending, because all voices matter here. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. You have the power to spread the light.